Welcome to the Traveller's Cyber Academy, a video series on cybersecurity and cyber risk management. We designed it to inform brokers on emerging cyber trends, risks, and threat prevention techniques, and also to excite them about the possibilities. Our topic for today: IoT in the SMB. Secure the future. The Internet Protocol, which is the foundational communications protocol underlying the Internet, was established in 1982. At first, the Internet connected only a small number of universities, research facilities, and government institutions. But it was transformed when personal computers became ubiquitous at home and in businesses everywhere. It has continued to evolve with each wave of new technology, from e-commerce, mobile devices and social media, to Internet-connected devices such as Fitbits, home thermostats, appliances, and even cars. Each of these changes has brought new risks and new opportunities. Businesses that don't appreciate the risks or fail to pursue new opportunities get left behind. Businesses that understand the risks and are protected against them can take advantage of new opportunities to secure their success in the future. In today's Traveller's Cyber Academy video, IoT in the SMB, we'll look at how today's businesses are using the Internet of Things. We will also explore some of the risks associated with the Internet of Things as explained by Glenn Carl, a Symantec cybersecurity professional. Finally, we will talk about how businesses and other organizations can mitigate those risks as they incorporate IoT devices and technologies into their operations. Most of us have heard of the Internet of Things. We are surrounded by devices such as phones, cameras, appliances, and even light bulbs that are connected to the Internet and thereby more functional and more convenient for us to use. Of course, the idea of controlling real-world devices through computer networks is not new. Industrial control systems, sometimes known as SCADA systems, have long used the Internet to allow remote monitoring and control of industrial processes, power plants, and transportation systems. Nowadays, those systems are often referred to as the Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT. Today, IoT devices are proliferating in the consumer market and becoming increasingly more important for businesses as well. According to Gartner, there were approximately 6.3 billion IoT devices in use in 2016 by both consumers and businesses. That number is projected to more than triple by 2020 to over 20 billion. The highest rate of growth is forecast for IoT devices that can be used across different industry segments, such as smart meters, smart lighting, and other environmental control systems. The use of cross-industry IoT devices is expected to increase nearly fourfold by 2020. All told, the economic impact from the use of IoT devices could range from £2.8 trillion to nearly £8 trillion by 2025, according to a study by the consulting firm McKinsey and Company. Most of that value will be realised outside the home and consumer setting in places like factories, work sites, offices, and retail environments. So, how are businesses positioning themselves today to take advantage of these new opportunities? First, businesses are designing and building smarter products, from refrigerators that can help order groceries and wearable devices that can promote healthier lifestyles, to cars that will one day navigate and drive autonomously. These devices combine internet connectivity with machine intelligence to enable greater ease of use and functionality. Many devices also collect diagnostic information about how they are being used. This can help ensure that the device is being used and maintained properly. For example, in addition to ordering groceries, a smart refrigerator could order a new filter when it needs a replacement. Businesses can also use this diagnostic information to better understand how consumers are using a device and to drive product development. For many businesses, the value of the Internet of Things will come from improvements to their operations. In production environments, for example, businesses are using sensor data from Internet-enabled devices to optimize the performance of manufacturing equipment and processes. This could reduce reliance on potentially fallible human judgments and observations. Businesses across the board can also benefit from using IoT technology for more efficient energy management in manufacturing and production processes. It could also enable more efficient use of environmental controls such as lighting, heating, and air conditioning. Finally, businesses can monitor equipment usage and performance data more closely, allowing them to supplement or replace routine maintenance schedules with predictive maintenance. This could extend equipment lifespans and avoid the kind of equipment failures that cause significant production delays. The Internet of Things is also having a significant impact on logistics and transportation. For example, businesses are using IoT data to enable intelligent supply chain management, ensuring that the right materials are available at the right places when needed. Businesses are also using IoT data to improve fleet management. It helps them to reduce transportation costs and track supplies and products much more closely. This means they can provide better service to their customers and reduce losses from waste and theft. Finally, businesses are using IoT devices to improve employee health and safety. For example, employees can be warned about dangerous conditions such as unbalanced loads or approaching vehicles, while employers can identify employees who may be fatigued or injured. IoT devices can also be used to conduct hazardous operations remotely, reducing the exposure of a business's employees to actual physical injury. Security cameras and other internet-connected access controls could ensure that only authorized personnel have access to the workplace and could further limit access to sensitive or dangerous areas. Finally, businesses can use the Internet of Things to provide a better customer experience in the retail environment. Customers could initially be identified from their mobile devices or through facial recognition or similar technologies. Once inside the store, they could then be offered discounts or promotions that are tailored to them, based on their past shopping history or on the area of the store they are lingering in. If a customer has shopped for a certain product online, the retailer could direct them to the same product or to related products in the store, thus blurring the distinction between the online shopping experience and the bricks and mortar version. Retailers can also use IoT devices to track general traffic patterns in a store and use that data for shelf space optimization and better inventory management. Let's hear from Glenn Carl, a cybersecurity professional at Symantec, as he talks about the Internet of Things.
Companies need to assess and understand the cyber risks that are out there, including risks related to IoT devices. This is the Symantec Cyber Insurance Center, which we built to work with travelers to help cyber insurance policyholders improve their cyber security posture. Policyholders can reach us through the toll-free Security Coach helpline or by completing the Cyber Resilience Readiness Assessment. After completing the assessment, policyholders can choose to send the results and the report here to the center, where we can answer questions about threats, vulnerabilities, and security controls based on the data and cyber intelligence from the Symantec Global Intelligence Network. Some of the key reasons are there's a reduction in operating costs that can be associated with IoT devices. They can increase productivity using IoT devices correctly. Third of all is the expanding into new markets. There are infinite amount of new markets that are out there. One example being a couple of college students creating a smart trash receptacle that's solar powered, is a trash compactor, and is interconnected with the waste management companies and the city so that they know when to pick up the trash versus just doing it every day, 7 days a week. The more IoT devices are out there, since people are already moving to the cloud and they're moving to the infrastructure, with ISaaS and software as a service and infrastructure as a service, as they start to do that more, it makes IoT even more relevant. And then if you combine that with automation and you combine that with artificial intelligence, all of a sudden those things combined are what are dramatically driving the change right now. And that's where the productivity is going to come from. We were at a bit of a plateau for a while, I think, with innovation, but now it's taken off again, and now this is going to be the next change. These are the next changes that are going to make the biggest impact on the world and businesses, small or large.
Before businesses deploy IoT devices, however, they need to consider the risks. First and foremost, IoT devices that control real-world systems and processes can cause real-world damage if they fail or are compromised. Many consumers, for example, use smart thermostats in their homes. Last year, however, one brand of smart thermostat failed to work properly after a software update caused the battery to drain too quickly. This resulted in freezing cold homes in the dead of winter. In a more industrial setting, it has been reported, for example, that the Ukrainian power grid was successfully attacked by hackers, resulting in outages that caused approximately 225,000 customers to lose power. The attack originated with phishing emails, a technique that was described in the Traveller's Cyber Academy video on exploring the dark side of the Internet. After the attackers secured access to the computer networks of 3 utility companies in the Ukraine, they were able to hijack several industrial control systems, lock out the legitimate operators, and remotely open the breakers at 27 power substations. The attackers also electronically sabotaged communication devices that could have been used by the utility companies to bring the substations back online. A second significant risk involving the Internet of Things is that IoT devices often collect data that can be linked to specific people, such as the individuals using the device or employees or customers of the business using the device. Depending on what it is, the loss, compromise or misuse of collected data can be covered by privacy laws and cause the business to face regulatory inquiries or lawsuits. Recently, a prominent manufacturer of smart TVs agreed to pay a fine to resolve a complaint brought by the US Federal Trade Commission and state authorities. In court filings, the regulators alleged that the company collected detailed data about TV viewing history without obtaining consent from the purchaser of the television. Although the company did not acquire or allow the acquisition of the purchaser's name, it was alleged to be an unfair and deceptive trade practice. A third risk that businesses should consider is the potential for business interruption losses when IoT devices are incorporated into business operations. We have already described the incident where the Ukrainian power company was attacked by hackers. In another recent example, a European luxury hotel was forced to pay a Bitcoin ransom when hackers seized control of their electronic key locks and locked all of the guests out of their rooms. More information about ransomware and Bitcoins was provided in the Traveller's Cyber Academy video on ransomware. Unfortunately, many IoT devices are vulnerable to attack. Indeed, the FBI issued a public service announcement in 2015 warning that IoT devices could be hijacked and used for criminal activity if security precautions such as changing default passwords were not taken. That came to pass last year when criminals began using IoT devices as part of the Mirai botnet. These devices included internet-connected surveillance cameras, Wi-Fi routers, and even business printers that were vulnerable because they were configured with default administrator passwords. In a simple botnet, computers that have been infected with a virus can be controlled by a criminal, known as a bot herder, through a central command and control server. Information from the infected computers can be stolen by the bot herder, and the botnet can then be used to conduct denial-of-service attacks by flooding the victim with spurious traffic. The Mirai botnet upped the ante, adding IoT devices into the mix of compromised devices. Mirai was used to conduct several notable denial-of-service attacks, including an attack against a service provider named Dyn DNS that brought down a number of websites. Let's hear from Symantec cybersecurity coach Glenn Carl on what makes IoT devices vulnerable and how companies can protect themselves when using the Internet of Things.
Some of the biggest problems with current IoT devices are they were released with flaws already built into them. Some don't have boot sector protections so that people can then compromise the device and then take it over. A lot of devices don't have encryption built into them. Therefore, the data on them is vulnerable and their communications are also vulnerable. Many devices don't have a way to patch firmware or to patch the operating system, making them, again, vulnerable. When somebody cracks one of those devices, they now own every one of those devices that's out there. Then the default passwords. Many devices, people don't reset the default password. So anybody that finds out what the default password is, which is just in the device documentation, they can then own that device, take it over and do what they like with it. Some real-world IoT hacks that have happened out there is the most famous being Stuxnet, which was an attack on an Iranian uranium enrichment facility. They had a worm that attacked the centrifuges that were making enriching the uranium, and they were able to bring those down, slow them down, cause all kinds of havoc. There's been a number of medical devices that have been ethically hacked at this point, and one of them being a pacemaker that university students were able to control the speed and increase and decrease the speed of the pacemaker. Another medical device, Internet of Things ethical hack was an insulin pump that had been compromised, where they were able to increase or decrease the insulin flow, obviously causing safety issues. Another example of IoT devices being vulnerable has happened in the auto industry. There's been many, but one of the first ones was the 2014 Jeep Cherokee that was able to be, ethical hackers were able to manipulate the braking system, and they were also able to manipulate the transmission, which obviously is a huge safety concern. Companies need to assess and understand the cyber risks that are out there, including risks related to IoT devices. Here at Symantec, for example, we have an ethical hacking competition that involves things like mock oil fields, ATM machines, and other IoT devices. As companies deploy the Internet of Things devices, they're going to want to ensure that these devices are tamper-proof, that their ports are protected, that their boot sectors are protected, that their operating systems are protected. They're also going to want to ensure that these devices can be updated, that the firmware on them can be updated, that the operating systems can be patched. They're going to want to make sure they change default passwords so that they're not easily accessed. They're going to want to make sure that they're segmenting those devices off onto a separate network and that traffic is controlled and firewalled. And lastly, they're going to want to ensure that these devices are encrypted so that they're protecting the data that's on them, but also protecting the data that's in transit.
In short, the Internet of Things presents opportunities and risks that businesses cannot afford to ignore. As businesses start using IoT devices more and more, they should focus on security and privacy issues. This is true for businesses that actually build IoT devices, as well as businesses that are adding IoT devices to their operations. IoT devices that collect or process sensitive data, for example, should encrypt the data when it's stored and transmitted. When it is necessary to use IoT devices that may be insecure, compensating controls should be used to protect them. For example, the devices could be placed on a segmented part of the network, or firewalls could be used to control the types of traffic that are permitted to and from the devices. All devices should be patched and updated if security vulnerabilities are found, and a schedule will be required for applying patches after the devices are installed. Of course, when installing IoT devices, make sure to change or disable default passwords and accounts. And, as always, make sure you obtain appropriate insurance coverage to manage your cyber and privacy risks. We hope you enjoyed this session of the Travelers Cyber Academy on IoT in the SMB. Secure the future.